All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Generations Legacy Evolution Voyager class Metalhawk. Yeah, some more Pretender love in the Legacy line here. Although what's fun about Metalhawk in particular is that in the original Pretenders toy line, he was actually a Japanese exclusive Pretender. So we actually haven't gotten that many new iterations of Metalhawk throughout the years, and mostly they've been kind of like either Japanese exclusives or part of like weird box sets or something like that. So this is the first time that I believe it's the first time that we're actually getting a mainline Metalhawk that's actually available on this side of the world, which is really cool. He comes with some weapons here. He comes with these two handguns, which actually are become a part of the vehicle mode. They just store on the back here with these little slots right here, just like that, to become kind of like back tail fins for the jet, which I think works pretty nicely. I love it when they actually incorporate, vehicle mode parts to become the weapons, so they have a built-in place to store. I love that. And he also comes with this sword, which has a couple storage options. They are mostly just like pegging onto the top of the jet, but at least with a sword, it's kind of streamlined, and rather than like having a big gun sticking up off of the top. He's got this sort of peg here, which has like, it's kind of like oblong, and it fits into the sort of like wide end of the hexagon here. So you could store it like that, either facing forward like this, and you have that arrow kind of like pointing forward, or you could have it going backwards, which is a bit more swept back. So you've got those options. What you're supposed to do is he's got these two pegs on the other side, or these two tabs rather, that correspond to these two slots. So you could peg it on like this so it goes back, or what you're supposed to do is peg it on forward. So you've got some good options there, because when you're using this peg, it sits a little bit more forward. So generally, I think if you want it to be going back, you would want to use the peg, and if you want it going forward, you'd use the tabs. I usually do it like this. I don't love how it kind of like sticks a little bit up over the jet here rather than staying totally flush, but I don't know. I think that the look of having like the arrow on the top is still pretty cool anyway. It's ultimately not too obtrusive to the vehicle mode. But yeah, the kind of interesting thing about this guy is that this is actually a quite extensive retool of the Kingdom Cyclonus mold, which is pretty cool. Because if you look at the two of them side by side, especially in this mode, you'd really be hard-pressed to see that they come from the same mold. There are some shared parts, but ultimately, like, they remolded so much that a lot of the transformation even changed. But there are some reused parts, like, for example, the main bulk of the wings here, even though they're facing the other way, are the same part. Whereas on Cyclonus, you had these flaps that would fold away to make the wings kind of like thinner for robot mode. But so on Metalhawk, it uses that same attachment point to add this new bit, which extends down here and then gives him like the gun on the end of this wing, and it has this like filled in bit. So this, though it's attached via what was once a hinge, it no longer rotates at all. It just stays out like that, but still the kind of like main body there of the wing is the same part. The shoulders, likewise, even though they're in a different orientation, are the same part there. You can see it if you look at the underside of Metalhawk here. This piece is the same as this piece here, and then I think probably the like upper arm sections of the shoulders are the same as well. This back section here, kind of up until this point is the same. What else? Most of it's pretty different, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I think that the what will be the upper legs in robot mode are the same, and that's about it. Most of the rest of it is different, which is wild, because I mean, if you're looking at these jets, you can notice like the similarity in the shape of the wings, but at a glance, they really look like totally different figures. And that's due to how much remolding there is on this figure, which is pretty cool. In terms of other comparisons, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see what he scales like with a standard size deluxe there for whatever that's worth. The only thing that I'm not in love with about the jet is I kind of wish that he had some sort of landing gear at all, which he doesn't, but that's kind of a nitpick. It's not really the end of the world, just would have been nice. But yeah, otherwise pretty good. Also, yeah, I mean, because of the way this mold works with the arms kind of on the side, now on Metalhawk, they're facing forward. His wings do kind of like awkwardly jut out to the side a little bit with these like intake vents from, just like the arms sitting there, which is, again, not the end of the world. It just makes him a little bit wider than I'd like him to be, but, not too bad. But yeah, in terms of transformation, it does use a lot of the same mechanisms as Cyclonus, but a lot of things, don't move around in totally the exact same way. First, you just want to take off the sword here. We can leave those on. Those just kind of end up in the same place in robot mode while they're just being stored. And then you want to take the arms, which on Cyclonus were attached kind of in the back here. But on Metalhawk, they don't rotate around. They just stay locked in like this. You just untab those and then loosen up these sections here like this and just bring them up. Then similarly to Cyclonus, you can just untab this section here with the legs collapsed up, and then we can rotate around this section, just leave it like that for now. Then you want to take what will be the chest plate, open that up, and then open up this back section as well, like that, so that instead of, doing the whole like accordioning the cockpit, because his cockpit is a lot shorter, you just fold up this one section like that, and then can rotate it around similarly to reveal the head. And I guess actually you want to leave that open for now. You want to close this section, and then instead of these panels tabbing in after the chest is closed, on Metalhawk you actually want to bring those in first, and they'll tab in like that, and then you can bring the chest up and it'll tab and lock those sections into place if you do it right. Nope, what's going on here? There we go. Let me just adjust the camera here real quick. Then, just like Cyclonus, you just want to kind of accordion out the legs here. The joints on his knees are a little bit looser than Cyclonus, which, means that he has slightly looser knees, but it also makes it a bit easier to actually do that when you're transforming him. Then you just want to separate the legs, and then, again, like Cyclonus, you just want to take the kind of back thruster section and fold it up on that panel so that you can fold out the foot, fold the thruster into the leg, and then close that back up, and then obviously do that on both sides here. And then we want to take the wings. They kind of untab from the forearms here, and then just kind of accordion back to sit on the back of his arms, similar to Cyclonus, just with the, without that extra step of kind of, thinning them out. And then the hands just rotate from the inside of the forearms and click into place. And there we have Metalhawk in his robot mode. And yeah, he looks really nice. I really like the way that he turned out. Definitely there are some like remnants of Cyclonus's robot mode, like the shoulders are very Cyclonus. But still, I think it overall works pretty well for this character. Now, unlike the previous pretenders that we've been getting in the Legacy toy line, they're all like all the Decepticon ones have been mostly based on the robot modes of like the outer shell of their pretender shells, whereas Metalhawk, his much more like sort of iconic visage, I guess, has been that of the inner robot, because that's the one that they used in the show that he was in Japan. So he is a bit of a difference in terms of becoming the inner robot rather than the outer robot like the previous pretenders have. But this is definitely the design that I would have preferred, because that's also mostly how he looked in the IDW comics as well. He had this form, and yeah, no, I think it works pretty well. He's got a nice head sculpt here. He's got, in terms of articulation, obviously it's pretty similar to Cyclonus. His head's on a ball joint, so you can rotate around and get a tiny amount of wiggle back and forth. The shoulders here are on swivels, and they can hinge out to the side. He's got a bicep swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the elbow. He has, does he? Yeah, he does have a wrist swivel. And then they can also rotate in for transformation. He's got a waist cut. Hips can go forward and back and out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel. He's got that knee joint. Unfortunately, like the actual joint that's supposed to be his knee, which is this one, is much tighter than the kind of transformation joint, which doesn't really have a locking spot. So by default, when you rotate his knee, it kind of uses that lower joint, which kind of puts this gap in his knee, whereas you'd want it to be more like that. But even using those joints in tandem, you can get like that kind of knee bend, just you'd be able to see this hollow section here. So it more or less functions the same as Cyclonus, just the tolerances on the joints are a little bit different. And then he's got a decent amount of ankle tilt, and then they can tilt forward about that far, and not really so much that far back. In terms of his weaponry, obviously we can give him his sword here, which he looks pretty cool holding. I don't know, is that supposed to be on the bottom or the top? I don't know. I haven't watched the show that he's in, but either way, he holds that pretty well. And then in terms of storage, he still has that peg hole on his back there, so you can just peg it in like that, nice and clean, out of the way, which I appreciate. And then his little side weapons here, you can have him either hold them individually like this, Or what you can do is the same sort of joint that they use to tab into the legs, you can actually use to combine, falling over there, you can actually use to combine the two of them like this and give him a bigger blaster, which is pretty cool. And then, like I said, in terms of storage, I usually just put them back on the legs where they stored in vehicle mode, because I don't think that that looks bad at all. So yeah, works pretty well. Nice integrated weapon storage, good articulation. In terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Sideswipe, obviously much taller, being a Voyager compared to a Deluxe. And here he is again with Cyclonus, just so you can see how much of this guy really is different. Let's see what's actually the same. Definitely the thighs and the little upper legs there, those are the same. Like I showed off before, the kind of like back section of the legs is the same, but most of the body of the leg is different. The feet looks like are the same. The hands, yeah, look like the same. And then this kind of like elbow section is the same. And that's really it. And then, you know, the parts of the wings. But so definitely quite a bit of remolding there. And it, you know, I think that the only noticeable part for me is just the fact that the shoulders look kind of Cyclonus-y, and that's not that big a deal since they're just kind of like generic shapes anyway. So yeah, pretty good retooling here. And, you know, Cyclonus was already a pretty good mold to begin with. I think it won a lot of fan votes in terms of being the best mold of that year, just in terms of being a really, really nice Cyclonus. And it's nice to see it here as Metalhawk. But yeah, no, just a really solid figure overall. It wasn't one of the ones that I was like more excited about in the wave. I was excited about most of the Wave 2 Deluxes over the Wave 2 Voyagers. But no, he's definitely a really nice figure. And, you know, like I said, some of the joints feel a little bit looser than Cyclonus, but you know, Cyclonus actually had a few joints that were like bordering on a little bit too tight, to the point where like he feels really solid in robot mode, but when you're actually messing around with them, it can be a little bit annoying to actually like work with the joints. Whereas Metalhawk, you know, if you shake him around, he'll move a bit more, but he's not like floppy loose or anything. Like he still, you know, holds his position fairly well. It just makes it a little bit easier to actually like rearrange the joints kind of more naturally. So yeah, you know, for whatever that's worth, it might mean that maybe he'll loosen up over time a little bit faster than Cyclonus. I don't know, but for now, I think he feels fairly solid. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. Just a pretty solid figure. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Oh, happy Easter, by the way. I forgot I'm not recording this on Easter, but this will be releasing on Easter. Obviously, Metalhawk has nothing to do with Easter, but if you celebrate Easter, happy Easter. But yeah, I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I have an Instagram account where I post various toy-related things. That is toys.n.art on Instagram. And yeah, without further ado, here we have Transformers Legacy Evolution Voyager class Metalhawk.